I am worried about New World and its first expansion, and I'm here to tell you exactly why that is. Now, I'm very much aware that the roadmap is early and it doesn't actually include everything that is going to be coming in the expansion. And that's a good job because I think that's actually sort of underwhelming right now. But even without that, I think there's some things to be worried about, so let's talk about them. So let's start with a little bit of an overview. New World was initially designed to be a survival PvP sandbox MMO. It isn't that now, and it's far away from that. In fact, it's actually moving more and more away from that as well. The game has and is going to continue going from a sandbox MMO to a more traditional theme park MMO. You can see this with them adopting the seasonal model with the first season pass. That's pretty much the final confirmation, if one was needed, that we're going into theme park territory, right? And it's a common thing to think that this transition from sandbox to theme park is actually one of the reasons that New World has struggled. And I have to say, I do agree with that. But why is this important? Well, I think there's quite a few people out there hoping that the glory days of a sandbox PvP will actually return to New World, and I have to say I think that's incredibly unrealistic. The expansion is very likely going to be a theme park, and actually on a personal note I think that's probably a good thing. Now that's not to say that you can't have a theme park MMO that actually has good PvP content. Traditionally a lot of sandbox MMOs have like hardcore PvP, and theme park PvP generally seen a little bit lacking in some areas, sometimes, right? Not all the time, there's edge cases and all that kind of stuff, right? I'm not trying to make a whole comment here, but New World is obviously lacking a little bit when it comes to PvP content. I don't think anybody could have played this game for 1.5 years and been like, the PvP content has had so much added to it, because that's simply not true. What really worries me about that though is that the expectations of the community might not align with what we're going to get delivered. If people are hoping for sandbox and we get more theme park, then that could lead to disappointment. For me personally, I don't think that's a big worry, but I do think that people might be disappointed when they see it if you are a current New World fan. Let's face it, there's not that many super popular MMOs that are pure sandbox. Often those games become relatively niche, and New World is obviously trying to expand a little bit out of that. Maybe it's not succeeding right now, but that's the plan. Theme parks themselves have a problem because you have to deliver content, otherwise people are going to get bored of the rides and get off. So personally I don't envy Amazon either way there. They're going to struggle a little bit. If they move even further away from sandbox, if such a thing was possible, then it's going to disappoint probably some existing players. And if they try to go the full theme park route, then they're going to have to make sure they deliver content regularly. And the season pass is basically them saying, we are going to do that. So let's see. But my main worry is that an expansion is coming simply too soon. I'm not sure they've had enough time to change anything meaningful with the game. A lot of what is actually going to be planned for this expansion, I'm guessing will have been worked on for many years, even before launch in some areas. For example, they were speaking about mounts before the launch of the game, and they said, oh yeah, mounts will happen, we just need to have a big enough map for that to be the case. Oh, and what's that? With the first expansion, we're getting mounts. So conceptually, they will have already at least had the ideas, if not any actual working areas or what have you, right? Maybe they are now getting finalized. I'm actually assuming that a large chunk of the people who worked on New World moved away from working on the current version of New World and moved on to the expansion probably a couple of months after the launch of the game, once the exploits and stuff like that were mostly resolved. And they will have split themselves probably into two teams, one that's going to keep up to date with the new stuff like the season pass, Brimstone and all that kind of stuff, and another that's actually actively working on the expansion and working on the content there. But really, have they had enough time to actually resolve a lot of the pain points that players face? When we look at gear set storage, something as simple as that, yes, it's finally coming in the March patch, but we've not had them for 1.5 years since launch. And if that takes that long, how long do they really need to fix all of the main issues of the game? So what are we actually going to get? I'm also a little bit concerned about Brimstone Sands. Now that might seem like a bit of a tangent, but I'm a bit worried that the success of Brimstone and the Fresh Start servers, which if we're honest was carrying that a little bit, I'm a bit worried that the return of players and the generally healthier opinion of the game may have given them a bit of overconfidence. Maybe they think they are actually on the right path with a lot of the systems and they just need to make them better. And that worries me because I don't think we need more of the same. I don't think we need the systems improved. I think some systems need dramatically changing. For example, it looks like we're going to get no gear rig rework. I don't just want ward loot to be removed, because if you do that, then the gearing progression all becomes a little bit funky. I actually wanted probably a change into gearing overall. And on the roadmap, in the patch before the expansion is going to go live, well, they have listed a perk rework, so they're going to change all of the perks. That's not something you would do before an expansion that then changes the gearing system. So there's going to be no gearing change unless something dramatic happens. Obviously, the roadmap might be a little bit of a tease for some things, and it might not be exactly the way things are going to go down, but I'm just assuming and reading into things. They do say that we are going to get a gear score increase. I'm going to assume that we'll maybe get a crafting rework. Maybe they'll adopt like a currency or something like that where you can re-roll a perk. Basically, it sounds like they're going to make what they have better. And it's sort of the same with the territory system control. They're not going to make any massive changes because they're doing the PvP influence change the patch before the expansion. That sounds like we're going to get what we have now, but slightly improved. I'm just not sure slight improvements are really going to do enough. Personally, I'm hoping that they're going to take away gold from being a reward and actually just give people PvP gear straight up. I think that would be a better system. Give them gear, give them transmog, give them skins, give them all kinds of very interesting stuff, but just not gold, because I think it's messing with the economy in a massive way. To be fair, they could do all of this PvP influence and still do that, so maybe with this one they actually can fix it. Obviously, I don't know what they're going to do there. Now, one thing the roadmap actually excludes is the possibility of a level cap increase. Now, that may or may not come. Maybe they're just going to reveal that when the expansion trailer drops and stuff like that. Obviously, I don't know. But if we assume it's true that we're not getting a level cap increase, that begs the question what we're going to do with the type of progression. Are we going to get a more vertical or horizontal type of progression? As in, is the gear score simply going to go to 650 and we're going to be able to upgrade our current gear, which would not technically be horizontal, but it's more horizontal than having to farm fresh gear, which is the alternative, right? You have to start from scratch pretty much. You have to go find 650 gear score that actually drops because you can't upgrade your gear. That would be more vertical. We simply don't know which of those two things is going to happen, right? I'm personally in favor of the reset option. I like the idea of horizontal progression, but I think vertical progression just makes the game more interesting in the long run. But I want to wipe the slate clean, which I think would help diminish some of the effects from bugs and exploits that we've had in the past. And if they fix the gold from wars, then it would also diminish that effect as well. Along with that, it would actually allow people to enjoy the new type of gearing that we have. We're going to have raids, we'll have the mutations. If we have a better PvP reward track, we'll get to experience those systems, but starting from afresh. I think that would be really cool. And I do know that some people would be salty about that. But the reality is, you will have had your gear for 2 years, and whilst the meta would have changed, it would vaguely have been usable, right? I think that's long enough without any real progression. But basically, my main worry is that we're just going to get more of the same. Now, the die-hard few who keep playing this game will probably actually like that, but we have to be aware that that might be a more minority of players. So one thing that I often think about is that if you have the systems you currently have, well, the people who play that system are the people who actually enjoy that system. So me saying to change it, that's going to cause problems for a lot of players. But what I'm hoping for is if we change the systems, we actually get players who have quit because these systems were bad, or we get new players back in. So I do want to sacrifice some of the people who currently play for the good of the game in the long term. And that's a bit of a hard sell. I get that, right? I'm just saying I think we need revolution rather than evolution, even if that means annoying some of the people who play now, the warloggers for example. What I am personally expecting in the expansion is just a more polished version of what we currently have. I think we'll get better crafting, we'll probably have better PvP influence because that's planned, and we'll have possibly better progression, better UI, and so on and so forth. Things will be better for sure, I don't doubt that, but I'm not sure you can polish the systems you currently have and turn it into something that's truly great. It's a little bit like Mercedes in F1 right now, if anybody follows that. You can't really polish a turd. It's still a turd. Now that's a little bit harsh. I don't mean to be that harsh, but it just gets the point across a little bit better. I think basically there's a cap. You can make the systems you have right now as good as they possibly can be, but if they are inherently a little bit flawed, then I think you're never going to make them great. And I think that might be New World's problems with some things. And I truly think we need to see some fundamental changes to some of the systems and the core gameplay loops. I often say that the random perk system, I don't think it's enjoyable and fun for the majority of players. It works, it's actually effective, it makes sense. I just don't think most people actually enjoy it. I think it's pretty awful for an MMO if I'm honest. But it doesn't seem like that kind of stuff is actually going to change, and that's where I have my concerns. I think even if you perfect the current systems, which New World is far away from doing, then I still think people won't necessarily enjoy them because the systems they've chosen are sometimes bad. Now maybe I will be wrong. Maybe if they actually go with their philosophy and they just make it as good as it can be, that I'll actually start enjoying some of the systems. But right now, I don't. What I actually enjoy is the combat. I still want the game to do well because I just simply love the combat, right? I also like the theming of the game. I just like the way that it feels when I play. But there's some systems that I think, no, they don't really belong and they're not suitable. But I know that other players will disagree with me, and that's completely fine. What I want to hear and what I want to see and what I need to see basically is the vision that New World has and why they are going to change what they're ever going to change. If they say, no, we think our systems are good and we're going to keep them, then I want them to say that so I know how to interact with that and the players know if they should return or not. Now, they're not going to reply to this video, that doesn't make any sense. What they will do is in summer, we'll probably get a trailer and we'll start getting the information. And at that point, we'll know what they're actually planning. And that will be key for me. I really hope they're going to acknowledge some of the flaws in the game and say, we realize that that's a problem, we're going to fix it. And either they'll do that or they won't. And I'm cheering them on and I'm still playing the game and I still will continue to play the game. And if you currently enjoy the systems, then I hope that you enjoy whatever they change it to, or they don't change it and you still enjoy it. I'm completely on board with that, it's fine. But yeah, I'm a little bit worried that the expansion simply won't do enough. I know they've not really spoken about it, so I am jumping the gun a little bit. As soon as we get an insight, I will let you guys know, and if I think it's heading in the right direction, I'll say so, and if I don't, I will also say so. So keep tuned for that. I have been streaming a lot on Twitch, so there'll be a link in the description if you want to follow me over on there. What you should definitely do though is have a most beautiful day, like and subscribe. Goodbye.